I can see that telegraph boy now. I got a shock. Telegrams always meant bad news in those days. I was glad I was in on my own when it came. It was from Jim's parents. The War Office had let them know, and they'd sent me this telegram. I think if they'd lived in Leeds, they would have come and told me themselves, but they lived in Huddersfield. Jim was my fiancé. We'd been engaged for 2 years before he'd gone off to the fighting. He'd said he wanted to do his bit. He'd only been over there 2 months. He'd have been 23. I don't know how I got through the next few weeks. I tried to be strong, but everything seemed just hopeless. I went back to work. I was in the sewing department at the infirmary then, and the girls were lovely. One especially because she'd lost her fiancé in the war, and she knew what it felt like to be on your own again. I've never really got over him, though it's nearly 50 years ago now. I often wonder what my life would have been like if Jim had still been with me. The only thing I don't regret is that after I met David and had his children, I wouldn't ever be without them. The lovely children. They've always been lovely to me. And though David's let me down, our children never have. And if I'd had children with Jim, I don't know what they would have been like. They might have been quite different. I was 35 when I met David, and I'd had to start wearing glasses. I thought I was firmly on the shelf. Jim had been gone for 14 years, and I thought I was definitely an old maid. David used to come round collecting the insurance. He was very charming, I can't deny that. He always had such nice things to say to everybody. One week he came when I was on my own, and out of the blue he asked me if I'd like to go on a trip to Knaresborough with him on the Sunday. Nobody had asked me out for so long, I suppose I thought they never would again. Well, Sunday came, and I wore a navy polka-dot dress that I'd made myself, and a navy straw hat with a white band. I thought that would look smart and up to the minute, but not too dolled up. I felt quite strange getting in the car next to him. He told me that he'd brought a camera, as he was very interested in photography and wanted to be a professional photographer. I suddenly wished I wasn't going. I knew I was no good in photographs. I'd never taken a good picture. And I thought if David saw me in a photograph, he might realise I was playing and not want to see me anymore. So I said to him, "David, do you mind if I'm not in the photographs? I never like having my picture taken as I'm shy." He was really nice when I said that. He said that he quite understood and that he liked shy girls. Girls, I thought. I was 35. Well, when we got there, we went up to the castle and he took some pictures. He did ask me to be in one of them because he said that as I would be just small in the photo, there was nothing to be shy about. So I took my glasses off and I stood there. But I felt a bit awkward, especially as people were watching. We could see right down to the river from the castle, and David asked me if I'd like to go on a rowing boat. So we did. He rowed and I watched, and I thought he looked very handsome, especially when he smiled. I just couldn't think what he saw in me, and thought he would never ask me out again. When I thought that, it made me feel more relaxed, so I started enjoying myself. I thought I might as well make the most of the day, because in all likelihood there would never be another. After a bit we stopped under some willow trees, quite private. Then he put his arm round me and kissed me. I couldn't believe it was happening. No one had kissed me like that since Jim, so long ago, and in a way I felt it was Jim. I suddenly saw him in my imagination. I didn't feel I was doing wrong. It was all just like a dream. Well, that was the start of me and David. Looking back, I don't know how he could live with himself, never telling me about his wife and children. I only found out when I told him I was having the baby. He went white. Then he told me. I felt sick. But he said it wasn't a happy marriage, and he wanted to run away with me. I didn't know what to do. My mind was in a turmoil. I knew when Mum and Dad found out they would disown me. And I wanted them to. I felt so guilty and wicked. I didn't want anyone who knew me ever to see me again. Only David. I was in love with him, even though he deceived me. I persuaded myself that David's wife must be an awful woman. I don't know what I thought about his children. I think I just shut them out of my mind. It was wicked of me to be so selfish, and I'll never forgive myself. Never. Well, David stuck by me. We took 2 rooms over a newspaper shop in Beverley, and I had the baby. A really lovely little girl. A real sunny charmer. We called her Sally. David kept on with his job at the insurance, and to earn some extra money he took photographs of weddings. He advertised by putting a postcard in the newspaper shop window. He had to send money to his wife, of course. She would never divorce him. And he had to keep up 2 homes, so things were never easy. But he had stuck by me. I was really happy when I presented him with a son, Robert. But then I found out that for over a year he'd been carrying on with that girl in the newspaper shop. She was half his age. It was her husband who came round to tell me. When he'd gone, I felt really scared. I thought if I said something to David, he might leave me. Oh, I didn't know what to do. I got the children ready for bed. I hugged them both. They were lovely children. That night, when David came in, we had an awful row. I hadn't meant to bring it up, but I couldn't stop myself. The upshot of it all was that he said Jean Robertson was a lovely girl and there was nothing between them but friendship. And he told me I was wicked to suggest anything else. He always had a way with words. He wanted to know who'd been talking, but I didn't mention Mr. Robertson coming because David was that mad I thought he might go round to their house. He had a terrible temper sometimes, and I thought he might do something awful. He was always threatening to tell the world about me, and he knew that always shut me up. Anyway, eventually, the Robertsons went off to live in Bridlington, so it all blew over. But it was just the first of a lot of times like that. I got used to it. Well, there wasn't much I could do. I had to make the best of things for the sake of the children. They were lovely children, always so well behaved and nice. Everybody said so. As the years went by, David and me, we didn't have much to say to each other. He did quite well as a photographer, and although we never owned our own house, we rented some nice ones, and gradually I scrimped and saved, and we bought our own furniture and crockery. He went on carrying on with his other women, of course, and sometimes I got so upset that I wanted to leave him, but I never could because of the children. Both Sally and Robert were very bright little kiddies, and they did very well at school. David didn't want them to stay on. He said they should be earning. But I insisted, and it was the best thing I ever did. I knew they'd have a much better chance in life with a proper education. They're both married now. They've done really well. They've got good jobs, and they own their own homes. It's a pity they live so far away. It would be nice to see more of them, but they lead such busy lives, and it's a long way to come up here. There was no reason to stay with David after they left home, so I took the plunge and got a job as a live-in under matron at the girls' boarding school. There was a room to go with it. I knew I was a bit old to apply, but I put down in the application form about my sewing, and they asked me a lot about that at the interview. So I think that tipped the balance. I never mentioned David. I suppose they thought I was a widow. The girls were so lovely to me, and it was like having your own family again. When I had the stroke, some of them came all the way to the hospital to see me. Even the headmistress, Miss Allenby, came, and she couldn't have been nicer. She insisted on paying my wages for 3 whole months, but then it became obvious that I would never be right enough to go back. 1 or 2 of them still write to me and we keep in touch, especially at Christmas. I was very lucky to get this place in the home. I think Miss Allenby had some pull there. I'm very comfortable here. I have my own room and my own furniture. They don't let everybody bring their own furniture, but they let me, and it makes all the difference. David said I could take what I wanted. I've got my own wardrobe, my own bed, my own sewing machine. There wasn't much room for anything else. The sewing machine is very popular. I made new curtains for the residents' lounge. Matron was thrilled. I'm very much in demand now. Napkins, tablecloths, and at the annual sale of work my stuff is snapped up. And I even rescue the old sheets, the ones that have gone in the middle. I cut them down the centre and then sew up the outside edges. They're like new. Matron didn't know you could do that, but I told her it was an old trick from me infirmary days. If you give them a good hemming, they'll last for years. I love it here, and whenever Sally and Robert manage to come up to see me, I always introduce them to Matron because she's so interested in them. They're always nice with her, and that's more than can be said for some of the other residents' relatives. She gets more complaints than enough. I wish David and me could have been happier together. The other day, I was sitting here thinking. First of all, I thought about Jim. I worked out how old he would have been, and I wondered if it hadn't been for the war, if we'd still be together. And then I thought about David. David and me. And what a shame it was it hadn't worked out properly. Then I started wondering if it was all my fault. And I thought, no, it wasn't. It's a pity that Sally and Robert haven't been able to fit in a visit lately. They usually try to come on a Sunday near my birthday, but they couldn't make it this year, and they're very busy people. It would be lovely to see them again. But I've got their photos to remind me. I like the ones taken when they were kiddies best. I keep them in a scrapbook. David took some really nice ones, I will say that. They always smile for the photos. They were lovely children. I would never have not had them.